people? It's your boy, the host with the most. Welcome to another episode of Just My Opinion podcast. I believe this is episode 5. How y'all living? I'm living swell. Before we begin today's episode, a couple of things I want to mention before we talk about the news, the latest news surrounding Kevin Durant. Normally, I do these Just My Opinion podcast episodes in a live stream, but unfortunately, I won't be able to go live tomorrow. I have other responsibilities and obligations. I do apologize, coming straight from the bottom of my heart, but that don't necessarily mean I won't do a live stream. I probably will do a little bit later. This will be the first time ever I have done one of these podcasts not live. So bear with your boy. Also bear with the noise in the background. I'm outside. I had a lot of stuff to do on my yard, so I'm just multitasking by doing this podcast and working on my yard. I decided to take a break before. I can't work on my yard and do this podcast at the same time. I tried it and it failed, so I have to do one or the other. All right, so without further ado, nevertheless, I'm the best. Let's get into today's topic. The first topic, the first thing I want to talk about is the latest news concerning Kevin Durant. Brian, I always say his last name wrong at ESPN. Brian Windhorst basically said that Kevin Durant is prepared to hold out when training camp starts. Basically, he's putting that out there in the atmosphere, letting the Brooklyn Nets organization, Sean Marks, the ownership, even the coach Steve Nash, that if he's still a member of the Brooklyn Nets, he is going to hold out when training camp starts. And that's going to escalate into preseason, which he probably wasn't going to see a lot of time in preseason. But it also means that there's a possibility where he can hold out during the season. So a lot of people, including Brian is saying that the reason why he's putting this out there in the atmosphere to let the Brooklyn Nets know that he means business, and they should just really try to get this done and over with, getting him up out of Brooklyn and trading him to another team. Now, this also comes at the heels of Kevin Durant flying to London, talking to the owner of the Brooklyn Nets, and basically giving him an ultimatum. It's either him or them, meaning Sean Marks and Steve Nash. Either get rid of Sean Marks and Steve Nash if you want me, or trade me if you want Sean Marks and Steve Nash. The owner immediately got on social media and said, "Hey, look, he stands 10 toes down with the general manager as well as the head coach." Now, Kevin Durant also gave his blessings to Steve Nash when the season ended by them getting swept by the Boston Celtics, basically giving his blessings to Steve Nash, saying, it's not Steve Nash's fault. He's committed. He believes in Steve Nash. And that was like over 100 days ago. And now he's doing a completely different narrative on Steve Nash, basically giving an ultimatum to the old ownership. Look, either get rid of Sean Marks and Steve Nash or keep me. Now, let's address and tackle what Brian Windhorst said over there at the good folks over there at ESPN, talking about he is threatening to hold out. All right. Holdouts are really not that good. Now, particularly on the NBA level, if you want to utilize an example, go see the Philadelphia 76ers when Ben Simmons hold out. When he was he threatened to hold out, and he actually stayed home. Now, of course, he had an excuse with his mental health issues, and he also had the excuse that he had a back injury. But more important than that, he did basically say that he does not trust Doc Rivers nor the brain trust over at the Philadelphia 76ers. And this started around training camp. And finally, Doc Rivers had enough of it. Told Ben Simmons to go home. Ben Simmons went home, and Ben Simmons stayed home until he actually got traded. Now, during that course, they suspended him. They took his pay and frozen his assets as far as what they owed him. They fined him as well. Now he's currently, and I don't know if he's still in court about this issue. No, wait a minute. He went to court, and basically the Philadelphia 76ers has to give him back his money. Most of his money. He still got fined. Now, this is like a peculiar situation with Kevin Durant. And a lot of people don't realize this or understand this, that Brooklyn has already forked over Kevin Durant's money for this year. So Kevin Durant already has that money. Now, this amendment is more so for the special players like the Kevin Durants, the Steph Currys, the LeBron James. The list goes on. I don't think every player gets this benefit of getting their money up front without the season even starting. And that makes it kind of complicated on Brooklyn's level. Now, Brooklyn can still turn around. They won't be able to hold his money because they have given him most of his money. Now, with Brooklyn, they could fine him. All right, they could suspend him. Because you have to have a reason to skip training camp. Now, you just can't just simply skip training camp because you don't like the ownership no more, or trust the organization no more, and you don't trust the coaching. You don't trust the coaching staff, Steve Nash, even though it was like over 100 days ago you approve of this coaching staff and you recommended this coaching staff. You the one who went up to the ownership and said, "Hey, hire Steve Nash." You believe in Steve Nash because of your recent relationship with Steve Nash with the Golden State Warriors. Okay, that's why Steve Nash got the job in the first place. Okay, even though he does have a relationship with Sean Marks, but the real reason why he got that job was because of you, and now all of a sudden you don't want him no more, or you don't want Sean Marks. All right. So this can be ugly. This has the potential of being very dark, very murky, very ugly, and it's going to put a black eye on the Brooklyn Nets organization, but as well as Kevin Durant and Kevin Durant's image. All right. Because a lot of people, including myself, don't perceive Kevin Durant as a drama queen like James Harden. Now Kevin Durant is a lot of things. He's spoiled. Sometimes he comes off kind of childish. He's addressing people on social media, and things of that nature. He has very thin skin, not thick skin. But the one thing a lot of us would say about Kevin Durant is, look, at the end of the day, even though Kevin Durant may have an issue with you, Kevin Durant is still going to play. All right. And now with this latest news talking about him that he's going to skip training camp if he's a member of the Brooklyn Nets, this does not look good for Kevin Durant. Now, also by him saying this, even last week talking about giving an ultimatum, it's either him or them. And now with this, I'm going to skip training camp. Now his value in the market has shrunk. So now the Brooklyn Nets can't really ask for the sun, moon, and stars because other organizations and other teams know full well that he doesn't want to be there. And you're going to sell. He's going to get traded no matter what. So we're going to give you less for Kevin Durant, which comes at the heels of Rudy Gobert. He's getting, he got traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they got a boatload of draft picks for Rudy Gobert plus players. And now you're looking at Kevin Durant possibly going to an organization, and they don't even have to give up a lot to get Kevin Durant because of the situation between Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets organization. Now, here's what I say, and this is what I truly believe. I feel like at the end of the day, Sean Marks and the owner of the Brooklyn Nets want to trade Kevin Durant because that will be the best interest for the organization moving forward. You don't want someone there that don't want to be there, because then he corrodes everything that you're trying to do for this organization. All right, I understand that. But at the same time, you want to get a great return when it comes to trading him, because Kevin Durant do not grow on trees. All right, everybody don't have a Kevin Durant, but the Brooklyn Nets are going to have to look at this as, hey, we can't trade Kevin Durant and get a Kevin Durant, because he's one of them ones. Okay. So, and plus he doesn't want to be there, and other teams know this. So now you got people saying, well, they have no choice but to hurry up and trade him before the season starts. And to that I say this: I can see a scenario where they take the Ben Simmons route, where they tell him to just stay at home until they can get a trade done. And this could stretch all the way into the trade deadline. As of right now, the Brooklyn Nets do not hold all the cards as far as getting a lot of assets for Kevin Durant, because a lot of teams know Kevin Durant does not want to be there. You really don't want Kevin Durant, so why I'm going to give you the sun, moon, and stars when both parties don't want to be with each other? Okay, so I'm going to give you far less than what you can actually get. Yeah, if you want to trade him before the start of the season. However, if I was Sean Marks and the ownership of the Brooklyn Nets, I would take the same procedure as Ben Simmons. Just let it play out all the way to the trade deadline, and there's going to be a team that is either close to establishing a playoff spot, or a team that we recommend that should get a playoff spot, but they're struggling, like a Boston Celtics. If the Boston Celtics have a bad first half of the season, they may be different enough to go ahead and give Brooklyn what they want. If the Miami Heat are struggling in the beginning of the season, they may really work hard as far as orchestrating a trade and getting the necessary assets to get a Kevin Durant. And who's to say that they're working on that right now? As we speak right now, they may have trades already lined up for the players that they have that they can't trade to get Kevin Durant, like a Bam Adebayo. Okay, so you got those young players that you can't trade for because Ben Simmons is on the Brooklyn Nets, so you can't have two max rookie contracts. But what you can do is the players that you was going to use to get Kevin Durant, you can trade those players to another team and cultivate more draft picks. Therefore, when you come later on in the season, the Miami Heat, now you got draft picks, okay? You got a couple of players, and maybe the Brooklyn Nets says, you know what, let's just go ahead and make this trade. We didn't get everything we wanted, but we got most of what we want. And they may orchestrate a deal to get Kevin freaking Durant. I feel like teams like Pat Riley and the Miami Heat, they would do this. You got the teams that are in the back that are mentioned, but people say, I don't see how they can get Kevin Durant. And these teams are the New Orleans Pelicans. And I forgot the other team because it just slipped my mind. Oh, and the Atlanta Hawks. I think those are the teams on the outside looking in on the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. They can make some trades right now to get up enough draft picks, to get up enough players, or they probably got enough draft picks and they probably have the certain type of players that the Brooklyn Nets are interested in to orchestrate a deal with Brooklyn. So you got the New Orleans Pelicans that will probably do that. Ingram will obviously be a piece that Brooklyn would want. He's the broke man version of Kevin Durant. He's not Kevin Durant. He's not KD, but he's still something. He's still box office. He's still spectacular, and he can still contribute to this team as far as getting W's. All right. If you look at the Atlanta Hawks, Ice Trae is definitely not going to be in no trade. But could you see where Ice Trae, DeAndre Murray, and Kevin Durant are all on the same team? I can see a possibility on that. You got the Sacramento Kings on the outside looking in. Now, I don't think Kevin Durant wants to go to Sacramento, but if they got enough pieces, he's got to go where he wants to go. He wants to be traded, right? I don't think teams such as the Phoenix Suns. Now, after the trade deadline, now they will be able to trade Ayton. But by that time, the trade deadline has came and gone, and the only way they can get into a bidding war to get KD is at the end of the season. And if KD is still floating around with the Brooklyn Nets at the end of the season, now they got to compete with other teams that may be interested in KD. Okay, that's on the outside looking in. All right. Now, I don't think Golden State's going to do it, because Golden State has already illustrated that they're not into the Kevin Durant sweepstake. They got enough problems of their own. They're going to have a hard time, re-signing the players that they already have. They just got too much to worry about. They're looking at the whole team instead of just one player. All right. So now, ultimately, I said that Kevin Durant will be a member of the Brooklyn Nets at the start of the season. And I still believe Kevin Durant is going to be on the roster at the start of the season. Now, there's a possibility that he can be dealt and moved before the trade deadline. That's a possibility. I give it like 55% of him being moved. But I also see if they can wait until the end of the season, which is going to be very ugly and very stressful for both parties, his value goes up. Now, like I said, if there are some teams that falter, like the Boston Celtics, now they're willing to give up those picks and those players that they was heavily saying that they're not going to give up. They'll give them up if they have a setback against the Miamis of the world, against the Atlanta Hawks of the world, the Milwaukee Bucks of the world. All right. So there's a possibility. But you got a lot of teams on the outside looking in that could be interested in Kevin Durant. Now, I will say this. I feel like he's going to be traded before the trade deadline. And if teams are desperate, and if their record, we got some noise in the background that I can't muffle out. Oh, wait a minute, hold up. Yeah, they're gone. All right. So, okay. Let's run down. I feel like ultimately he's going to be with with Brooklyn at the start of the season. I also told you guys I just don't see him realistically being traded to the East, because to a team out East is because Brooklyn don't want to see him 3 times a year. Where the Oklahoma City Thunder didn't mind doing it because they were rebuilding. I just don't see the Brooklyn Nets wanting to see him 3 times a year and dominating in the East. Now, let's look at the West first. And the New Orleans Pelicans have a shot of getting KD. Now, it will fit perfectly with the draft picks and the players that the New Orleans Pelicans have that the Brooklyn Nets will be interested in. But is KD interested in being traded to the Brooklyn Nets. To the New Orleans Pelicans. So you have to make both sides happy in order for this trade to go down. All right. That's one possibility. All right. Of him going to the Pelicans. I don't see him going to the Blazers because I think the Blazers are happy with what they have. The Phoenix Suns, I can see him going to the Phoenix Suns, but they will have to trade Ayton will have to be in a trade package. And like I just told you earlier, they won't be able to trade Ayton until after the trade deadline. So I just don't even see the standpoint of Phoenix getting Kevin Durant unless they can get a third team involved that's willing to get Phoenix what they want. All right. Now, Skip said something interesting. AD, Anthony Davis for KD. Now, the Lakers would love to do that. I just don't see the Brooklyn Nets interested in doing that. But I feel like if they had more than just 2 draft picks, meaning the Lakers, if they had a flurry of draft picks plus AD and maybe a spectacular young player that's developing and getting better, and Thornton Tucker, Thornton Tucker, then I can possibly see that. The Clippers are not going to be involved in no serious trades. I think they're happy with what they got. The Houston Rockets are not going to be involved in no KD trade. They are rebuilding. And plus, I just don't see KD going to Houston. It's just not a lot of spots for KD to go. Unless he wants to go to Minnesota. But Minnesota's going to have to give up Cat and Ant. And I just don't see them doing that. If you look out east, and like I said earlier, I don't believe the Brooklyn Nets want to see Kevin Durant 3 times a year. But if the better deal is to trade him out east, then there's a lot of selections out there. You got the Atlanta Hawks that is interested in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. You got the Philadelphia 76ers that are interested as well. Even though it's a long shot, the New York Knicks are interested in Kevin Durant. The Washington Wizards are interested in Kevin Durant. The Miami Heat is interested in Kevin Durant. All right. So there are a multitude of teams out east that is interested in Kevin Durant. But the biggest one, and I feel like they have the right amount of players that they can trade to Brooklyn as well as draft picks, is the Boston Celtics. I feel like out of everyone I just mentioned, the Boston Celtics have the biggest shot to land Kevin Durant. All right. But like I said earlier, Boston is not giving up the sun, the moon, stars for Kevin Durant. But if they're falling behind the Atlanta Hawks, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Miami Heat, if they start slipping, I can see them saying, okay, we're just going to have to make that deal for Kevin Durant. Because Kevin Durant is that one guy that can change the narrative and change the fortune of the Boston Celtics. All right. And I feel like that's a possibility where he can go to Boston. I just don't see the Philadelphia 76ers scenario. The money will make sense if trading him for the other players that you have for the Philadelphia 76ers, but they don't have enough picks that will intrigue Brooklyn. And, picks are one thing, but who you're trading them to and the picks are another thing. Even if the Philadelphia 76ers had a multitude of picks and the money works and it makes perfect sense for him to go to Philly, that's automatically a super team, and they're not going to be losing anytime soon. So those draft picks that you accumulated by the Philadelphia 76ers are not going to be worth a damn if they're always deep into the finals and deep into the NBA finals. deep into the playoffs and in the final, representing the East in the finals. So that's not going to help Brooklyn. So if you had to pin me down, here are two teams I feel like Kevin Durant could possibly be traded to. Well, first of all, first things first, I can see a scenario where Kevin Durant is not even traded and he just finished out his contract with Brooklyn. I can see a scenario like that, and we'll talk about that a little later. But if you had to pin me down and say, come on, you got to pick a team because he's going to get traded. The two teams I can see is out east, Boston, and west, New Orleans Pelicans. But like I said, you have to convince Kevin Durant to go to New Orleans. Okay, even with KD and what they have in New Orleans, is that enough for them to win titles there? That's a very serious question. And he will win more titles in Boston than he will in the New Orleans Pelicans. All right. But if you had to pin me down, those are the two teams I'm looking at. All right. There's a possibility that there's sleepers in this discussion. Miami could get a third team involved, and Miami Heat got Kevin Durant. All right. The Atlanta Hawks are still in the running. All right. And the Philadelphia 76ers. We want to throw them in. All right. But if I only can pick two teams, one from the East and one from the West, I would pick the New Orleans Pelicans and the Boston Celtics. Now let's talk about what I just said momentarily. Him staying in Brooklyn. And the reason why I feel like he's going to stay in Brooklyn is because the ownership, the GM, the coach, is in no rush to trade him. Because no matter what trade package you guys illustrate on your live streams and on your videos and what you're recommending to Brooklyn and what trade packages are recommended to Brooklyn, Brooklyn believes that they have a better shot with Kevin Durant than with anything anybody can give them. Okay? Brooklyn feels like they can win a title with Kevin Durant, a heavily motivated Kyrie Irving, and a Ben Simmons, then trading Kevin Durant to Boston, and in return they get Jaylen Brown and oh my God, I forgot the other guy's name, the other tall guy's name. If Boston trade away both of their best players, Brooklyn believes they have a better fighting chance just with KD. I feel like when it's all said and done, and it kind of harbors me back, and it reminds me back, it goes back to, remember when Dwight Howard was with the Orlando Magic and he had an issue with Stan Van Gundy and he said this is not working, and he basically wanted Stan Van Gundy fired. And then after he was in a press conference talking about that, and we mentioned it to the world and things of that nature, the next day or 2 days later, Dwight Howard is hugging him up with Stan Van Gundy. Because I feel like low-key, the ownership, the brain trust of the Orlando Magic saying, hey, look, Dwight, we're not getting rid of Stan Van Gundy, and you're not going to get traded. Or somebody that was close to Dwight Howard said, hey, look, man, this team is good. You have a above average coach. You got players around you. There's a possibility. You was just in the finals with him. There's a possibility that you can run it back and go back into the finals again with what you got. Just play out your contract, and when it's time for you to re-up, if you're not happy, then ask for a trade, or just play all the way through, and when you become a free agent, then you can make your moves. You have the leverage. You have the control. And I feel like this is what's going to happen to Kevin Durant. One or two things is going to happen. Is going to line up with Kevin Durant. Maybe the ownership walks up to Kevin Durant and say, hey, look, Kevin, You're a phenomenal player, but any package that any team gives us is not equal to you. And we prefer to keep you here. Or someone in Kevin Durant's camp, when he's no longer talking to Kyrie Irving, when he's no longer going to London to rap concerts alongside James Harden. The same James Harden that quit on you. The same James Harden you made a mockery of when you were selecting your players in the All-Star game. That James Harden, okay? Now, y'all good buddies, all right? I feel like somebody is going to, that's close in his circle, say, look, Kevin, we have an opportunity to win the title this year with the Brooklyn Nets. We got a heavily motivated Kyrie Irving that wants a max contract. So he's going to be on his best behavior, and he's going to have almost an MVP season. His damn self. You got a Ben Simmons who's fully healthy, who's playing for his reputation, because he took a serious hit on his reputation. A lot of people believe that he can't play no more. A lot of people think he doesn't have the marbles to play in the National Basketball Association, and he's going to prove those people wrong. So you're going to have even more of a highly motivated player of Ben Simmons. And what they picked up this free agency benefits to your talent. The Brooklyn Nets have the capabilities of winning the title this year. They're the best team in the East. I know a lot of people are not going to tell you that. A lot of people are going to pencil in Milwaukee. A lot of people are going to pencil in the Hawks. A lot of people are going to pencil in the Philadelphia 76ers. But let's look at those three teams, shall we? The Atlanta Hawks shot themselves out the gym. There is an opportunity for them to do that again. If you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, there's a chance that James Harden is not going to be fully healthy. And they're going to struggle in a series when they need him the most. The Milwaukee Bucks, they're just like one injury away from repeating what they did last year, this year. There's no head and shoulder team that's better than everybody out east. Everybody is pretty much on par and equal to one another. Even the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat that went into the finals a couple of seasons ago in the bubble, but what has Miami Heat done since then? So there's a possibility that this could be the year for the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets can do what the Golden State Warriors did last year. No one penciled in, other than myself, no one really penciled in the Golden State Warriors to win the title, because everyone was looking at what they did in previous years. Their injury years. Their recovery years. That team was not fully healthy nor complete. Now they're healthy and complete, and they won the title, folks. That's the same team that had a losing record a couple of seasons ago, and they won the title. The Brooklyn Nets can be next year version of the Golden State Warriors, where they win it all and they win a title. Now, if they win a title, and if Kevin Durant still wants to be traded, that's going to be very beneficial for Kevin Durant, very beneficial for the Brooklyn Nets. Now they're going to get everything plus more to get Kevin Durant on one of these contending teams. And the Brooklyn Nets are going to have to run it back without Kevin Durant and definitely Kyrie Irving. Whatever they get for Kevin Durant plus Ben Simmons makes them very competitive. And that's it, man. That's all I got for this pre-recorded. This is not even a real official live stream. If you're commenting in the comment section, if I'm able to listen to this video, I will message back and forth to you as best as I can. But that's this episode is a wrap. Guys, tell me what you think. Rate, comment, subscribe. Please feel free to hit the subscription button, the notification bell. Share this with your friends, family, and followers. Comment in the comment section. It helps out the algorithm. I mean, comment among yourselves. All right? Tell me what you think. You think I'm half crazy? You think I'm all the way crazy? You think I'm right? You think I'm wrong? Comment in the comment section. While it's going live, I will try to do my due diligence to comment back. But due to whatever I'm doing at that particular time, hey, it is what it is. But I will get back with you on your comments by either thumbing it up, thumbing it down, or just putting my face, hitting the overall like. I guess that's what you call it. So, guys, I will see you guys next week. Oh, and tell me how you like me doing it this way. All right, guys, I will see you later. Deuces.